NBA pros react to the Brooklyn Nets drama. Many NBA experts predicted that the Brooklyn Nets would win the NBA championship a year ago. After a dismal season and its consequences, the franchise appears to be on the verge of implosion a year later. The Nets entered the 2021-2022 NBA season hoping that their superstar combination of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden would lead them to Eastern Conference dominance. Instead, Irving was sidelined for the majority of the season due to COVID vaccination difficulties. Harden became bored, as he sometimes does, and Durant dealt with injuries. Even when they traded Harden for Ben Simmons, their new star never saw action as the club hobbled out of the first round of the playoffs. So in this video, we'll go through how NBA pros react to the Brooklyn Nets drama. Kevin Durant believes that net owner Joseph sided with the wrong party at first. Even if there is still enough time for everything to be resolved, internet drama is still at its height. People have formed opinions on either coach Steve Nash or player Kevin Durant is right. Since he began his coaching career, Steve Nash has faced several difficult circumstances. He took over as head coach of the Nets for the first time, and it was really a terrific job. Or it would have been, had things gone a little more smoothly, which they didn't. He's surrounded by controversy because he coaches a theater company rather than a professional basketball team, and he also had to deal with the criticism for his inability to get the team to function as a cohesive one. The owner's situation is also not ideal in the meanwhile. Owner Joe Save decided to support Steve when Kevin Durant gave him an ultimatum. However, a lot of people are contesting the wisdom of his choice. Evan Turner, a former NBA great, is one of them. Even criticized the internet for choosing to support the wrong party on a podcast with Andre Iguodala. He claimed that Steve Nash was a coach who had little to no track record of success. Kevin Durant, on the other hand, is a talented enough basketball player to know when to hold his tongue and when to back off. While acknowledging that the Nets had the last say, he expressed doubt about whether hiring a new player at this point in their championship pursuit was a wise move. Additionally, Durant continues to issue expectations and deadlines, but nothing changes. For Kevin Durant, things weren't going well and no one seemed to be paying much attention to his complaints. So recently, he issued an ultimatum to the staff to increase the already intense pressure they were under. He first requested a trade from the team in June, but after a week turned into a month and he grew impatient. There was no other way to break up a team that was already disintegrating than by approaching owner Joe Tsai and demanding that he either trade the team's biggest star or immediately fire head coach Steve Nash and general manager Sean Marks. Talk about competitions. Whether it's a good thing or not, the Nets made the decision to completely ignore him and maintain the coaching staff and front office intact despite Durant's significant demands. While some may find it strange that the Nets are supporting Nash, a coach who has struggled to establish himself rather than Durant, a talented player who is practically an all-time superstar. You have to give it to Joe when you consider the big picture, which is to say what has been going on around Durant and his non-stop demands for the past few years. He isn't going into this blindly because the Nets have turned Kyrie Irving or Don Durant down for anything for a while, and the team hasn't advanced in any way. There is no guarantee that this will continue once the Nets fire the coach and general manager. It appears as though there is no way forward. Kevin Durant is in a desperate state when it is decided that they should make the decision and will do so. Ryan Windhurst freely discussed the fact that neither party could take action against the other at Monday's get-up. He claimed that despite Durant's best efforts to up the pressure from behind the scenes, no progress had been made. According to him, Joseph Tsai and Kevin Durant had a meeting scheduled in London for that time period, or roughly 10 days earlier. Durant had to take action, so he did, but guess what? Absolutely nothing occurred. Nothing has changed in the environment that surrounds the NBA player. Trade negotiations showed no sign of urgency, and the Nets continued to hesitate to adopt a fresh approach, if it weren't for the widespread media coverage. One may be forgiven for thinking that it had never occurred, but why exactly are they at a standstill? The answers, though, are very straightforward. None of them has any influence over the other. But the Nets are in a good position because to the 4-year deal. First off, the Nets have little negotiating power with other teams. They haven't made any progress there yet because they haven't found any proposals that are commensurate with what they desire. Kevin is much worse because he just keeps asking for things like get me traded, fire the coach, and fire the general manager. But unlike past years, he's just told no and helpless to change it, which is the cause of the impasse. Durant feels like more hassle than he's worth. That's the problem. There is no chance that the sum Nets is requesting for Kevin will ever be paid. There are a lot of possibilities that the Brooklyn Nets are doing that on purpose, but it's simply too implausible. In addition, because of the past several months, organizations have begun to believe that the NBA star is more problem than he's worth. One may suggest that Kevin Durant should say goodbye to the possibility of being dealt soon, since there are only two alternatives left at this stage. The player must choose between cooperating and making things as tough as possible to see how long everyone can hold out before giving up. If this goes on for long enough, Joe will probably agree to a settlement merely to put an end to this mess. However, there is also a potential that Joe will just keep ignoring him. Durant is still bound by his 4-year deal after all. He can only make a nuisance of himself by trying to force a deal under a legal contract. It appears like Joe is trying to demonstrate to the players that he is the owner, not them. Even if things may not be going as planned for Durant, the Nets appear to be more than willing to watch how things develop. Joe has had enough of the players gaining the upper hand and is now temporarily putting his foot down. Before thinking about trading Durant, it appears that he will keep on to him at least for the upcoming season. One thing is for certain, everything about this has been progressing at a slot pace, and everyone is content to drag things out rather than give up and move on. There are two potential outcomes for the near future. The Nets will either continue as a team with their attention on the back burner until training camp begins next month, or they will accept a decent offer from a team and go forward as a unit. The next best opportunity for KD is to increase pressure on the Nets during training camps. He may decide to remain out of camp, or he may decide to show up, but not necessarily in a peaceful or surrendering manner and attempt to spark a media frenzy. Although he too criticized Durant for being a childish player, Iguodala, Durant's former teammate, feels the player should remain in Brooklyn and that the situation can be resolved by everyone growing up. Sadly, it appears that theirs is not the case because at this point, the only thing that is truly likely is that they will soon break up. To start with other news, NBA Global Games have resumed. With the NBA Global Games starting up again after a 2-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic, French players Lilian, Hayes, and Rui Hachimura will have the opportunity to compete in their home country. Japan and Abu Dhabi will compete in a preseason match. The regular season will be played in Paris and Mexico City. The NBA sends celebrities to enthrall its global audience, and it has roughly 70 social media followers from countries other than the United States. The NBA's deputy commissioner, Mark Tatum, expressed his excitement about bringing live games back to the league's global fan base. He anticipates that NBA fans from all around Europe will watch the games in Paris, which will feature two all-time star Nikola Vucevic. Second, given what we know now, where would the 2016 drought be? The media landscape now demands fast analysis of the NBA drought. However, it takes time to fully understand how each team operates. We have 6 seasons worth of data for the 2016 drought class, thus new interferences can be made. A look at the best examples on the Bulls' 11th round choice. Alex Caruso demonstrated his ability as a strong defender. Ben Simmons continues to be a tremendous player whenever he plays, and Damonte Sabonis won 2 All-Star selections with the Kings. Finally, the NBA allowed Jalen Harris to return. The National Basketball Players Association and the NBA said on Thursday that they had accepted Jalen Harris's request to be restored as a player. Harris was fired after testing positive for a chemical on July 1, 2021, as part of the NBA NBPA anti-drug program. After a year, he could apply again. The debate over whether to support Steve Nash or Kevin Durant is over. What do you think of the equation then?